I think the Los Angeles Rams beat the Seattle Seahawks, but they need Matthew Stafford to be the MVP to do it. We'll discuss on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert Nick Cattles. On today's show, we're going to talk about why nobody wants to coach the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll talk about why I think that there is more pressure on the Patriots than the Broncos, but we got to start with the best matchup of the weekend, where I think Matthew Stafford must play at an MVP level if the Rams are going to upset the Seahawks. Before we get into all of it, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Nick, as I said, I think that the Rams will win the game and head to the Super Bowl. But to do that, they're going to need to play their best football, and they're going to need Matthew Stafford to play their best football, which is something our guys over at Locked On Rams said this week.
But if the Rams are going to go up to Seattle and get a road NFC Championship game win, they're going to have to be at their best. They're going to have to play their best football that we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 weeks. I mean, all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. No mistakes.
I think that's absolutely right. You look at the Rams the last few weeks, they got beat by Seattle in overtime. They lose to the Falcons. They beat the Cardinals, but I mean, whatever. They should have won by more over the Carolina Panthers and let them come back in. They barely survive against the Bears, and Matthew Stafford did not play that well. In the last matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, he had 457 passing yards. They still found a way to lose, but I think if Stafford puts up that kind of performance again, it will give the Rams a win. I'm going to take the Rams plus 2.5 in this matchup over the Seahawks.
All right, so when I'm looking at this game, number one, my thought is I don't trust Sam Darnold. And I know Sam Darnold's a great story, but I've seen this movie before, and it might be unfair for me to say it, but until he goes out there and he proves that he can truly do this job at a very high level when the stakes are at the highest, I'm still going to have some questions, right? So I don't fully trust Sam Darnold. I do trust Mike McDonald. I do trust the Seattle defense. I don't trust the Rams defense because I don't think they're very good. I do trust Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and the Rams offense. And when you look at this matchup, Tyler, Stafford threw for 457 yards and 3 touchdowns against Seattle in the middle of December, just about a month ago. So we've seen Matthew Stafford slice and dice this Seattle defense before. Ultimately, I look at it and I say, well, which quarterback do I trust more? And I obviously trust Matthew Stafford over Sam Darnold. So I think this could end up being a tight game, but I do think the Rams find a way to win. So I'm with you. Give me the plus 2.5.
Yeah, I got to take the points in this one. You're right. It does come down to who I trust more in this game. And listen, Sam Darnold has been absolutely fantastic this year. You give him his credit. But one thing that I thought was astute that Michelle Majuk, the data queen, pointed out on yesterday's show is, when has Sam Darnold had to feel real pressure during this run? All right, they played San Francisco the last week of the season with the division on the line. They won 13-3. Like, the game was never really imbalanced. The defense prevented San Francisco from really doing anything whatsoever. So, like, Sam Darnold never really felt the pressure in a do-or-die game in that scenario. Then they go in, they get the bye, they come back out, and they dominate from the start. I mean, we got an opening return kickoff from Rashid Shaheed. There's just no pressure whatsoever on Sam Darnold in that game, and I want to see him do it with pressure. Now, we got to give credit because Rashid Shaheed has been awesome in special teams. He was a good addition, and our guys over at Locked On Seahawks think that addition shows exactly why John Schneider should be the executive of the year.
The game. I think that the acquisition of Rashid Shaheed basically is the masterstroke that almost guarantees that John Schneider is going to get Executive of the Year. Everybody has talked about the draft class. Everybody has talked about Sam Darnold and, the way that the offensive line has went from being a weakness to arguably the team's greatest strength on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think enough credit is going to Schneider for just the willingness to peddle a mid-round selection, for a player that is a perfect fit for what the Seahawks actually need.
And listen, I think he's right. And Pro Football Writers of America just awarded John Schneider with Executive of the Year. Mike Vrabel, your guy, got Coach of the Year. We'll talk more about the Patriots in just a second. But I think it's fair to say that. And I think this matchup is so interesting because it really is like the best quarterback-coach combination in the league versus like the best roster in the league.
Yeah. And it's a perfect way to put it. And when you look at Sam Darnold, the other point about all of this, right? Look, Seattle, yes, they are very talented. I think you could argue they're the most talented team in football. But when you look at, Sam Darnold, not only the history and what we've seen from him, and we have these, pictures in our brain of what happened at the end of Minnesota last year.
Yeah. You could almost call them ghosts, Nick.
Yeah, to seeing the ghost stuff, right? We look at the game. You go back to the middle of November against the Rams in LA. That's the game where, Sam Darnold has 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a passer rating of 45.5. And Chris Shula, I think, is a good defensive coordinator. So now this is the third time that you have seen Sam Darnold in one single season. He's got 2 touchdowns and 6 picks against this defense. So I just think they're going to figure it out. And, it's one of those things where if Sam Darnold can't come up with the big play at the big time, and it's going to be a close one, and you're in Seattle, it just feels like that's kind of the inevitable ending to all of this, is Sam Darnold chokes it up somehow, some way, and he might even have a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter if he plays well enough for the first 3.5 quarters. But inevitably, the pumpkin is going to turn into the pumpkin, and Matthew Stafford's going to say, yeah, I've been here before, I've done this, and this one's over.
And we just saw Matthew Stafford do that. It wasn't even his best game. He struggled in cold weather throughout his career, but he found a way to come up clutch for the Rams to win that game against the Bears. And that kind of just drives home the faith that I have in Matthew Stafford to get this done. Now, one way that the Rams or the Seahawks could absolutely help Sam Darnold is that run game. They have just been running all over people their last 4 games. 171, 163, 180, 175. That's why, looking at some prop bets in this one, Nick, I'm going to go over on Kenneth Walker's 85.5 rushing yards, because without Zach Charbonnet, who's going to be out with an ACL, not only is he a good runner with a good running offense, but he also is going to get a lot of the volume, so I trust that. But on the other side, we talked about Stafford's passing yards. I think that the Rams will have to match that, and the only way that they can match that is to throw the football. So I'm going over 253.5 on Stafford passing yards. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I look at the Walker one first. Let's start with Kenneth Walker. LA is 14th in the NFL regular season in EPA, and rush EPA. So, when you look at their defense, they've been pretty much middle of the pack against the run. I think Kenneth Walker, look, you want to play keep away from Stafford, but you also want to play keep away from your own quarterback.
Yes.
So this is the rare game where you want to keep the ball away from both quarterbacks. So I think Kenneth Walker's probably carrying the football around 20 times. And I think against this defense and the way they've been running the football for Seattle, I do think he can hit that over. Matthew Stafford, the Seahawks, number 1 in rush EPA, number 3 in rushing yards per game, the best defense in yards per carry against. It feels like, hey, man, if the Rams are going to win this one, it's going to be on Matthew Stafford, as we have said. And it was a close game with, if you look back at that game in November, Stafford threw, I think, 28 passes, 29 passes. Mm-hmm. It was a close game with Darnold throwing 4 interceptions and not a single touchdown. But then you fast forward to the game last month, and Stafford goes bananas because he throws it a bunch. So I think the recipe for Sean McVay is throw the freaking football. And Matthew Stafford, if he throws 40 times or more, you have to feel good about him hitting over 253.
Exactly. And listen, I talked about why I think Nick Amamori is the defensive rookie of the year in the NFL this year. Me and Luke Braun, the brain, last week. I think what he's allowed them to do with their formations on defense and their personnel groupings makes him super valuable. But he is a guy who can be hunted in the pass game, and I think they're going to look to go after the rookie safety. This game, maybe I'm betting with my heart on this one, Nick. I'm just hoping for another high-scoring matchup. I'm going to take the over 46.5 in this one. I think these games, whenever I do I hate over-unders. I say it all year on my show, on this show. I hate over-unders, but hey, there's only 2 games. We're going to have some fun here. I'm going to go over because of the score of the last game, but this is just one of those weird situations where I'm going to take over on this one, take under on the other one, and it actually be the other game that scores a bunch of points in this one that doesn't. Do you think I'm trying to reverse jinx this thing, or are you with me on the over here?
Look, you can go back to the game last month, 38-37, right? So it was a back and forth battle. I do think both offenses will be able to move the football a little bit because I do think Stafford's going to find some opportunities. And I also expect 2 to 3 turnovers between the two teams. So that could create short fields. So I don't hate the over in this. 46.5 is not a terrible number.
Right. I didn't think it was that crazy. I thought it might be 51.5, 52.5, something like that, even 49. Like I was pretty shocked it was only down at 46. But with that being said, we got another big time matchup, AFC Championship game, Denver Broncos, New England Patriots. Can't wait to dive into that one with my best bets on a FanDuel Friday. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert start to finish without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms, and they work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents and go about your day. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it all. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. Just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. All right, Nick, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Again, it's a FanDuel Friday, giving you guys my best bets of the weekend. We both like the Rams plus 2.5. Kenneth Walker over 85.5 rushing. Matthew Stafford over 253.5 passing. I guess I'll take the over 46.5. I truly do hate over-unders, guys. I just got to be honest with you. They never work for me. But with that being said, we do go to the AFC, where we have the Denver Broncos hosting the New England Patriots. That game is 4.5 right now, and I gotta tell you, Nick, I think the Patriots at -4.5, there's no way that I can turn that down. I just have so much faith in Mike Vrabel to have his team ready to go, and without the playmaking of Bo Nix, I guess I just have a hard time seeing the Broncos with no running game, no quarterback that can go out there and really kill you in the run game. I have a hard time believing that the Broncos keep this one close.
Well, I'm not making this pick because I didn't make the pick last weekend, and that worked out for me.
You shouldn't. Don't jinx it.
If you want the pick for this football game, check out Locked On Patriots on Friday. I'll have it there in my deep dive preview. So I'm not making this pick, but I will tell you, I feel like the Jarrett Stidham talk is a little bit much this week. And I think, first of all, I'm not going to blame any of the Broncos. Of course, you want to instill confidence in your backup quarterback. And of course, those guys are going to say, we believe in him. I get that. I do think some of the media stuff is a little weird. Look, maybe Stidham is one of the best backup quarterbacks in football. Maybe. But there's a reason why he's not starting, and there's a reason why he's not starting over Bo Nix. You want to know why? Because Bo Nix is the better quarterback. So I don't really get this idea of like trying to push this thing. Maybe it's just people, the NFL maybe pushing some of the media to try to make people to watch this game or make you feel more interested in it. I don't get it. I also look at the other side, And, Drake Maye, he usually learns from his mistakes. He didn't do that from the LA game to the Houston game. Fumbleitis is a big deal now.
Yeah.
And so he's got to take care of the football. I think he cleans it up this week. Nick Bonito on the left side, obviously, of the Patriots offensive line.
Nasty.
He could change this game single-handedly. Will Campbell has been atrocious the first couple of playoff games. If Nick Bonito gets home a couple of times, that could change this one. I don't think, by the way, Tyler, the altitude is going to be that much of a big deal. I was watching a podcast with former offensive lineman of the Patriots, David Andrews. It's called the Quick Snap podcast. I thought it was a really good point. He said the altitude impacts you when it's early in the season. But when you've played so many games and played so many snaps, you are now conditioned. So it should have less of an impact. I thought it was a great point. I am fascinated to see what Sean Payton does with Jarrett Stidham in this offense. How much does he change it? And where does he think that, Stidham can play his best?
No, I agree. The one you mentioned the two things right there that if the Broncos find a way to win this game, the two reasons are going to be that defensive line goes nuts and attacks Drake Maye and gets a bunch of turnovers. And Sean Payton is one of the best coaches of the last 20, 25 years in the NFL. And if there's anybody that can devise up a plan to get a backup quarterback to play well, it could be Sean Payton if they are able to ball control, keep it out of Drake Maye's hands. And when Drake Maye does have it, make him make mistakes. The problem for me is I don't think the Broncos can run the football. They literally cannot run the football. They don't have the ability to run it. And if the Patriots stop them in the run game and you put the entire game on Jarrett Stidham, I'm with you. It's been overboard, the confidence that people have showed in Jarrett Stidham. He's had opportunities to get a chance. New England drafted him. He went to Vegas with McDaniels, who liked him. He had plenty of chances to show that he is. I'm not even convinced he is one of the best backups in the NFL. I have no reason to believe that. Now, I will say, along with the stuff that we just said, I think there is a lot more pressure on New England because Jarrett Stidham is in it. Kind of allows the Broncos to play with house money. And on the Crossover Thursday show with Locked On Broncos and Locked On Patriots, that's something that my guy Sarah Bedinger brought up.
No Bo Nix for this game. That's the number one storyline for the Denver Broncos. And we've seen Broncos country really rallying around another familiar face for so many Patriots fans out there, Jarrett Stidham, a guy who's drafted by the Patriots. I don't know how you guys necessarily feel about this, but I think from the outside perspective looking in, at one point, if even only for a breath of a moment, was considered potentially the heir apparent to Tom Brady, and certainly a favorite of Josh McDaniels, who followed to the Las Vegas Raiders. And so Stidham's getting a huge opportunity. Everybody in Broncos country is changing their Twitter profile pictures to this Jarrett Stidham meme, rallying around him. I think that's going to be so fascinating to see how he responds to the moment, how the rest of the Denver Broncos team responds to losing Bo Nix, because obviously that puts a whole different, this game it's the stakes are different. It feels like obviously both teams trying to go to the Super Bowl yet, but it feels like it's shifted maybe the pressure over to the Patriots because the Broncos now don't have their quarterback anymore.
Now, I think that is true, but is there any coach in the NFL that will have their team ready to deal with pressure more than Mike Vrabel? So, I agree that is true. I just don't know how much it'll matter.
Yeah, I think it's true that Denver is, feeling less pressure at this point because your backup quarterback is your backup quarterback. I do think, though, this game, Denver's a different type of team, and Denver has been built a certain way.
Right.
And Denver keeps it tight, and then you need the Bo Nix heroics in the fourth quarter to get you over the hump, right?
Yes.
So there are ways. To me, if you say, well, one team has all the pressure on them, then you feel like that team is going to win, and there's almost no way that they can lose the football game. I do think there are ways the Patriots can lose this game, and I do think people have argued those ways. And I just have a tough time. We just went, we just went through the last couple of weeks of media coverage where it's the Patriots were seen as, somewhat of an underdog by many people in the media against Houston last weekend because of that defense. Right. So again, yes, there's more pressure on the Patriots, but I do think they have some things on their side, which is defensively. I think they're going to use it again as they did against the Texans, where it's everybody's talking about the Denver defense. People are still not talking that much about the Patriots defense. And people are like, well, what can Sean Payton do with this backup quarterback to get the best of the Patriots defense? And everybody's talking about the Denver Broncos, and rightfully so, their offensive line. So I think the defense sees themselves, even against a backup quarterback, as disrespected. And I think Vrabel's going to hold that all week long and make sure that they know that. I also think Drake Maye has a lot to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's fumbled the football 6 times. He's lost 3 of those in the first 2 playoff games. There are legitimate questions about Drake Maye's ability to take care of the football. And now you're going on the road, very tough place to play. So, yes, the Patriots have more pressure on them, but I don't think this is the typical, oh, well, that team should run over that team, and if they lose, man, oh, man. I think it's a little bit more different than that.
Yeah, I think the other parts, like you said, the other parts of the Broncos team are part of the reason they're so good. It's not like Bo Nix is Matthew Stafford. You know what I mean? It's not like he's Josh Allen, where he was just carrying this ragtag roster. Well, apparently Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane don't think it's a ragtag roster. They think it's a great roster. But, it's not like that. Like, Denver is a complete football team. So it's not like they're totally out of their depth here. But I will say, you talk about the Patriots defense. Look at the last couple of games. Miami. Now it's Miami. All right. 117 passing yards allowed, only 63 rushing yards. 120 passing yards allowed against the Chargers, only 87 rushing yards. 193 passing yards to the Texans, but only 48 rushing yards. And that comes off 3 straight games where they allowed over 160 rushing yards. So I was a little concerned about New England, like, hey, man, are they going to be able to stop the run in the playoffs? But as soon as the games mattered, Mike Vrabel had that defense ready to go. So I think that the Broncos are terrible at running the ball. The Patriots are great at stopping the run, and that's going to make it very hard for the Broncos offense to operate. I'm going to go under on the Denver Broncos at 18.5 total team points. And I think the Patriots have the ball and hold the ball. I'm going to go over 35.5 Travion Henderson rushing yards.
All right, so for the over-under, the 42.5, I'm looking at it. I have no idea what to expect from Denver's passing offense after the script is done. How does Jarrett Stidham react? What does Zach Core, the defensive play caller, do to try to mix things up? Don't overlook the fact that Josh McDaniels has a lot of knowledge about Jarrett Stidham, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what makes him uncomfortable. The run game for Denver, you said it. If J.K. Dobbins comes back somehow from a Liz Frank, I don't even know how that's possible, but if he comes back and he's playing, I do think that makes Denver's run game better, but I don't think it's a very good run game. And I think Sean Payton, the fact that he calls a ton of passes, will tell you that he doesn't feel like his run game is great. And the difference between the Patriots' run defense, Milton Williams, Robert Spillane are both back. And that's the middle of their defense. That's the spine of their defense. And since those guys have been back, it's been much better. I'm going under. I don't know if either team can finish drives in the game. As far as Travion Henderson, look, he was bad last week. Yeah. And his vision wasn't good. He was showing hesitancy. His pass protection was not good. If you go back to the first 7 weeks when he was that hesitant rookie, the best job he did on the ground was 32 yards. I just feel like after watching last weekend, maybe it's recency bias, but I can't go over 35.5. I've got to see it to believe it.
All I need is one big run, Nick. That's all I need. One big break off the backbreaker at the end of the game when they're up by 13 points. Henderson doesn't have to be hesitant because he knows they're going to win the game, and he breaks off the big run to close it out. That's what I'm hoping for with that. It's just such a low total that if he breaks off one big one, I win. So that's my thought there. But Stevenson has had more of a load as of late, and his over-under was about 45.5. I just like the Patriots to be smart here and be able to run the football. But this game, people are trying to poo-poo it, but I'm very excited to watch this matchup play out as well. But it doesn't seem like very many people are excited to coach the Philadelphia Eagles because, Lord, they cannot find themselves an offensive coordinator. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Look, the NFL playoffs are in full swing, and there's nothing like being at the game, the crowd noise, the energy, cheering alongside other fans. Watching at home is great, but being in the stadium hits different. The frustrating part has always been getting the tickets, waiting in queues, dealing with logins, watching prices jump right when you're trying to check out. That's why the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I'm not kidding, guys. I buy all of my tickets on Game Time. I've done NFL, NBA, WNBA, MLB. I've done concert and comedy tickets all on Game Time because they have the best features in the industry, panoramic view from your seat, zone deals, upfront pricing with fees included, and it's all backed by the Game Time guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode every NFL playoff game day. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Right now, again, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts so you can apply them to the bets you like the most. You open your profit boost pack first thing on game day, see the boosts that you want to apply. The boosts give you even more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. I've been going through all of my best bets in the show. Kenneth Walker player props, Matt Stafford, Broncos team total, Travion Henderson, over-unders, lines, everything. And you can apply these boosts to get even bigger payouts while the playoffs keep rolling. Visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right, Nick, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. We broke down both the games coming up this weekend, some of the bets that we like, some of the bets that we don't like as well. But now we got to talk about some other NFL news, because one of the big stories in the NFL right now that's really attractive to me and I think needs more discussion is the inability of the Philadelphia Eagles to find an offensive coordinator. This week, Mike McDaniel went to the Los Angeles Chargers, and my guy Louis DiBiase talked about how that's kind of a big blow, but it's also a good sign for the Eagles that they were interested.
Well, that sucks, but it's also kind of encouraging. Mike McDaniel chooses the Los Angeles Chargers OC job over the Philadelphia Eagles. Despite the Eagles having McDaniel as their number one choice, he chooses Justin Herbert over Jalen Hurts, which I do think is understandable. Jalen Hurts has had the better career than Justin Herbert. He is the better player. I think Justin Herbert is a playoff choker. But Justin Herbert is the more consistent passer right now. Who he is right now fits McDaniel's offense more than Jalen. So it's discouraging that my number one guy and the Eagles' number one guy is now gone. But it is encouraging that Mike McDaniel was the Eagles' number one choice. That tells me they are looking for someone that is going to change this offensive scheme completely, that's going to evolve the passing game, that's going to attempt to evolve Jalen Hurts' game. That's why McDaniel, to me, was the number one choice, and to hear he was the Eagles' top candidate as well, that is music to my ears, even though it sucks they couldn't get him.
And listen, that all sounds good, but let me say this. It's already been reported by Diana Russini that if Brian Daboll doesn't get the Buffalo Bills head coaching job, which why in the world would they do that if Sean McDermott wasn't good enough to get him over the hump? How would his offensive coordinator from before who bombed in New York be good enough to get them over the hump? I don't really understand that connection right there. But it's been reported that Daboll is going to take the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator job if he doesn't take Buffalo's head coaching job. And I think if you're the Eagles and you're sitting back and you're saying, this guy wants to go to Tennessee over coming to Philadelphia with all the talent we have on offense, I think that tells us one thing, Nick, and it's something that I've been saying online all week, and Philly fans are mad at me this week. They're angry.
No.
But, right.
Philly fans angry and mad? No way.
And that leans to the point. It's not the offense. Yes, Jalen Hurts, whatever, but Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl. Like, it's not like he's terrible. It's the fans in Philadelphia. These guys don't want to bring their kids, their wives to South New Jersey. Everybody's saying, oh, it's not the city of Philadelphia. They're going to live in a suburb in Jersey. But the fans can drive. The fans can be on the message boards. There are Philly fans in South Jersey who go to the grocery store and stuff. Kevin Petula had his house egged. And I know that that's a juvenile high school thing. Oh, it's an egg your house. But if you're somebody, why would you want to come to Philadelphia and risk your family being harassed and assaulted to do what? Get fired in a year if you don't take them to the Super Bowl? I just think there are so many things outside of it's a good roster, it's a good offense, it's a good team. There are so mmany other factors here that are making it really hard on Philadelphia to find somebody. And now we're hearing that Matt Nagy might be their offensive coordinator. Kansas City let his contract expire, kicked him to the curb, and brought back Eric Bieniemy. So, I think Philly's in a tough spot, and their fans are who are to blame.
I'm not going to go that far. You can have that angle. I'm going to look at
I'm the madman after all.
I'm going to look at the football angles, okay? So if you're an OC, going to Philly, number one, you got to deal with Jalen Hurts, who I do think people around the game feel like is a limited quarterback. I know that he won a Super Bowl. I know that he got the team to another Super Bowl. But if you look at how they won, they ran the football down the throats of defenses. The offensive line was spectacular, and your defense was really, really good. I wonder if OCs are looking at Jalen Hurts and saying, well, I'd rather work with this guy, that guy, and that guy than Jalen Hurts. Number two, you've got the A.J. Brown drama. And, is A.J. Brown going to be on that team next year?
Right.
I know the cap ramifications, but it's very difficult for me to believe that A.J. Brown is going to be back given what's happened the past couple of years. So you look at that. The offensive line is getting a little bit older. They were not the same this year. Saquon Barkley was not the same guy this year. So you're walking into that, and I think you just hit something that's very important, Tyler. The expectations. If you go in and this offense is not completely flipped around, I mean, this team is going to be another team that's going to be talked about as a contender next year. So if you don't get to the Super Bowl, you don't get to the NFC Championship game, you're going to be looked at as a failure. And so where does that leave Nick Sirianni? Where does that leave your job security? There's some things going on there.
No, you're 100% right. And listen, I don't mean to do home cooking on here and, the Titans and this and that, but these are national reporters saying that, teams would rather go, these guys would rather go to the Titans. And I think the expectation is why. The Titans have won 3 games in back-to-back years. They've been one of the worst offenses in the NFL for multiple years. Even when Vrabel was still the coach, the Titans offense was absolutely terrible. If you go to Tennessee and you're 14th in scoring and Cam Ward looks good, we're going to build you a statue in Nashville. You know what I mean? If you're the 14th best offense with Philly, they might can you anyway. So I think you make a good point there. Another offensive coordinator thing to look at is in the NFC South, where we saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Atlanta Falcons bring Tommy Rees along with him, who was the play caller in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go out and they get Zac Robinson, who was the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. And our guys over at Locked On Bucs talked a couple of days ago about how the Buccaneers truly did need someone with play calling experience.
I would be shocked if the guy who gets hired by the Buccaneers does not have play calling experience.
Liam hadn't called plays in the NFL, but he called plays in Kentucky.
He called plays.
Yeah, Dave, that was his first experience, with all of that. So with Todd Bowles being in the situation that he's in, yeah, I'm 100% with you. Is he willing to take that risk?
He wasn't willing to take that risk, but I got to tell you, bringing in Zac Robinson, to me, that's a sign that not a lot of people wanted to go to Tampa either. Zac Robinson was not a great offensive play caller in Atlanta. He's very pistol-based, which I don't really think that is going to work long-term in the NFL. I guess I was a little bit shocked at both of these moves. I figured Kevin Stefanski would want to improve upon just terrible offense in Cleveland, even if he has more talent. And then Robinson didn't do that great of a job in Atlanta either. So I think both of these teams kind of missed the mark.
I think Kevin Stefanski blames quarterback play for everything that happened that went wrong.
He does.
I think it's as simple as that. I think he believes in himself. He believes in Tommy Rees. Let's run it back, baby. The Tampa thing, I'm stunned. I am stunned that Zac Robinson, and I know Zac Robinson was with the Rams when Baker Mayfield had his cameo with the Rams.
True.
But I am stunned. Zac Robinson's offensive play calling has been incredibly predictable. It has been very disappointing. Todd Bowles and Zac Robinson, if you're telling me that that's the future of Tampa Bay, good luck to Tampa Bay. Honestly, good luck to them.
Yeah, I think this is kind of the beginning of the downward spiral for the Buccaneers from where they were a couple of years ago, being contenders. I'm not going to look at them the same going into next year. And honestly, I'm surprised Mike McDaniel didn't take that job because, yeah, Todd Bowles is on the outs, but Mike McDaniel might be able to just take over after a year and kick Todd Bowles out. You get to stay in Florida. Baker Mayfield is a better version of Tua, in my opinion. Pocket passer, can get the ball out quick, a little bit more athletic. You got some weapons there. I was a little shocked that Tampa couldn't do better, but apparently a lot of people out there are having offensive coordinator issues. And listen, the Titans' job is just better, man. Sorry, you guys got to take all the leftovers. The Tennessee Titans just such a good job. I say that tongue in cheek, but it does look like some of these better offensive coordinator candidates like Dable, like Cliff Kingsbury, even like a Clay Kubiak. I'm just shocked at some of the decisions some of these teams are making.
Yeah, I'm with you. I sometimes, man, the people right, the connection, the network, people lean into people that they know and that they trust instead of maybe getting a little outside the box, going outside your circle and finding the best guy for the job.
As I like to call it, the buddy hire. Big in the NFL. But with that being said, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, Nick Cattles. As we tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.